Am I the asshole for calling 911 for a woman who seemed unconscious on a party bus? I, 23F, was on a camping trip in a busy city with two friends, both 23F. We went out to some bars and met a guy who invited us to join a party bus for a bachelor party. I will never make this decision again, and I understand how utterly, seriously stupid it was. On the bus were about 8 men and one woman who was completely unresponsive, head down, not speaking or moving. When I asked about her, one guy said, "She's fine, I checked her pulse." Another man told me to leave her alone and later claimed to be her boyfriend, even though he originally said they met her during the bachelor trip. I tried to wake her and checked her pulse, which felt slow. I asked a friend to call 911 and she refused, so I did it myself. While I stayed with the woman, my friends left the bus and went into the apartment with some of the bachelor party. I found them, and we waited outside and EMTs came. The woman started waking up confused, saying things like, "Why am I here?" and had to be carried off the bus. Afterward, my friends were angry at me and told me I should have minded my own business and an EMT will be way too expensive and they would have never wanted one called in that situation. I feel bad for ruining the night for everyone. Am I the asshole for getting involved? Edit. I got a hotel last night so I didn't have to sleep with my friends because it got a little heated as we waited for the Uber. I just talked to them because we still had to get home together. I asked them to come to the hotel so we can talk and I will give an update later. Update. This is coming so quick because we were able to figure some things out and have a much more rational conversation in the daytime lull. Our conversation cleared a lot up. Basically, I was talking to a different group of men than my friends. I learned that the group of men planned to have the party bus driver bring the woman to the hospital. I would not have trusted this unless I actively saw her receive care, to be honest though. They also were told this woman was one of the men's girlfriends. Also, apparently another man called 911 before I did, which makes sense because it arrived quicker than I expected. They apologized and I forgave them and apologized as well for raising my voice waiting for the Uber. It was definitely a big miscommunication, so please don't be mean to my friends. Now should I show them this post to be fully transparent and honest? Not the asshole. You need new friends. She could have fallen victim to any predator. The fact they wouldn't help someone in need speaks volumes about them. One guy said, "She's fine, I checked her pulse." Another man told me to leave her alone and later claimed to be her boyfriend, even though he originally said they met her during the bachelor trip. The woman started waking up confused, saying things like, "Why am I here?" and had to be carried off the bus. Whatever was going on with her, her party was over. And 8-1 odds were not working in her favor. The comments from the guys was flippant and suspect. I would have been very concerned for her well-being, on a SAW level, not just her immediate health. She was lucky you intervened. Not the asshole. You are definitely not the asshole. You did exactly the right thing. She could have been dosed with something or had alcohol poisoning. However, your friends are shitty people, and kinda dumb, honestly. They were more concerned with their good time than the safety and life of another woman and think no one should call for help if they were in the same situation? You're not safe going out with them. They won't have their back if it interferes with their party. Get new friends. Not the asshole. That's a scary situation, and although EMTs are expensive, I'm not sure if the better alternative would be to leave her passed out alone with the 8 guys in a story that isn't lining up. Recovering from trauma is expensive too. Not the asshole. Thank you for looking out for an unconscious woman. I'm grateful none of the men were leaving her alone, but it's troublesome that they were just going to leave her on the bus while they went in apartment. You have to pay for an ambulance, WTF. Am I the asshole for speaking in French with my date's friend? I, 29M, have been going out with someone, 27M, I met online for last couple of weeks. We are not dating and do not plan to in the short term at least, but we like each other's company and we hang out quite often. Last weekend, my date asked me if I wanted to hang out with some of his friends. I did not really mind, so we decided to do a half-a-day excursion out of the city together. I got along with all his friends, except for one girl. She came across as extremely pretentious as well as fake, and in general, I got really cold vibes from her. Throughout the day, there were at least a dozen times where I had to roll my eyes to what she was saying. I mentioned it to my date, and he seemed to agree but said she has always been like this, and although none of his friends really like hanging out with her, but they don't want to abandon her because they have known each other since their undergraduate days. Anyway, after we came back from the small road trip, we decided to get dinner before heading back to our places. While at dinner, we were talking about our favorite travel experiences and specifically food experiences within these cities. I mentioned my time in French countryside and how one of my favorite things was to grab a freshly baked croissant. This girl looks at me confusingly and asks me, "What is that?" I was genuinely confused at this point. If she did not know what a croissant was, but that seemed ridiculous. So I said, a croissant like the French pastry. To which she exclaimed, "Oh, a croissant." I was genuinely pissed at this, and in response, I said in immaculate French, with an accent, of course, "Oh, I did not know you spoke French." How exciting. I have been looking for someone to practice my French, and maybe we can do that together. What is your favorite French dish, by the way? There was absolute silence at the table, and she looked at me dumbfounded. I broke the silence by saying, "Oh, I thought you spoke French." I don't exactly remember what happened after, but somebody must have said something, and we moved on from that topic. Post the dinner, I received a text from my date, saying that I was being an asshole for that little performance of mine and it was not required, and she told him that she felt humiliated. Am I the asshole? Info: before rendering the judgment, I'm going to need to understand how she was being pretentious. Examples, because you also came off pretentious as hell. Oh, je suis désolé. Avant de rendre un jugement, je vais devoir comprendre en quoi elle est prétentieuse. Exemples SVP, parce que vous aussi, vous avez eu l'air extrêmement prétentieux. Merci. To clarify this, throughout the day, there were at least a dozen times where I had to roll my eyes to what she was saying. I mentioned it to my date, and he seemed to agree but said she has always been like this, and although none of his friends really like hanging out with her, but they don't want to abandon her because they have known each other since their undergraduate days. You were rolling your eyes at her? As in being dismissive and passive-aggressive in conversation when she spoke up? For me, that is, you were the asshole. And she was the a-hole for doing the correction of the language with you. Just curious, was her fakeness or pretentious putting you down in any way compared to you rolling your eyes at her when she made statements? I'm leaning towards you or the asshole because you kind of sound like one. People are annoying, that's life. I've encountered few people that made me feel the need to roll my eyes multiple times. I hope you did that in your head and not like, literally. Look, she's probably annoying, but you made it clear you don't like her and wanted a chance to show it. So you tried to make a fool of her and looked pompous instead. Sorry, I'm happy to be the unpopular opinion here. You sound like a dick. Not the asshole. She tried to call you out on your pronunciation and it blew up in her face. If she's embarrassed, maybe next time she'll bite her tongue. You did nothing wrong here. Esh. You both played a part in making a simple moment worse for everyone around. She and you both sound blah. Just the right amount of asshole if we're being honest. Am I the asshole for refusing to be my disabled brother's legal caretaker once I turn 18? I, 16F, have been my disabled brother's, 18M, caretaker for many years. Ever since I could walk and talk on my own, I became basically alive and made. My grandmother believed this was right because she's old school and believed women did all the chores on top of doting over the men. This includes making and bringing him food and drink, setting up his table, cleaning up after him, and being emotionally available like a mother would be for him. Soothing tantrums and outbursts mainly. Even in elementary school, this was my way of life. For context, he has mild needs kabuki syndrome. He can walk, waddle because he's 300+ pounds, talk, eat and think on his own. No feeding tubes, no wheelchairs or braces, no PT or anything. He was more feeble when we were younger, needing many surgeries and the like, but has been normal since he was about 10. My mother was too busy getting drunk to actually emotionally be there for him, which fell to me. She passed away 4 years ago, and at the same time my grandmother took in our 3 cousins. This meant she had to care for 6 emotionally distressed 3D kids aged 12-17. Of course, all his needs fell to me, the little sister. Nowadays all 6 of her grandkids are 18 or above except me, and we're going to court soon to get legal guardianship over my brother, who we'll call Ben. My grand talked with the whole family about putting my other brother, who we'll call Peter, on the paperwork as a caretaker, as well as my uncle and eventually me when I turn 18. The others have no clue on how to take care of him. They don't pay rent, they don't do anything for Ben. It's all fallen to me and Gran. Of which she has dementia, and especially after she forgets our names and dies, all of his needs will go to me and only me. So I refused. We got into a big fight she probably won't remember. I told her how I felt sick and tired of being a biological indentured servant because I was born a girl, and how it shouldn't be my burden to care for some guy who's rotting away on the couch and always says weird shul things about his own sister. So, too long did not read. I've cared for my disabled brother all my life and don't want the responsibility of doing so until he dies, but no one else in the family wants to either. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. That responsibility needs to go to someone who is willing. You are not, and that's okay. You are allowed to have your own life. Not the asshole. Have an escape plan as soon as you are a legal adult, 18 or whatever applies where you are. Look into scholarships, fellowships, internships, or anything else that can afford you the ability to leave. Do you have friends and trusted parents through them? Tell them everything. School counselors? Get help. Keep asking for help until you get it. Leave no stone unturned for assistance and use it all to run far and fast. Don't look back. You have to make you a priority. Nobody else will. You will figure out this life. It's hard, but you can do it. You will make your own family who loves you. It will be okay. I have faith in you. Reddit strangers have faith in you. Heart not the asshole. You deserve your life and to live it how you want to. Tell the judge you refuse. Say you are being forced and pressured. If you accept this, you can be charged for neglect if something were to happen to him, so don't accept that kind of responsibility and stress. And never ever sign anything. Not the asshole. You really snuck in a big one at the last second. Your brother is of age, is essentially normal as far as care needs go now, and he's saying sexual things to you, a 16-year-old? Are you in school? Tell someone about what he is saying to you, please. You are in the shittiest of shitty situations and it's not your fault. You being his caretaker at 18 is not going to serve him either, just further keep him dependent and emotionally stunted. Your grandma has dementia and she's legally responsible for you? This is untenable. Loop in people outside of the family. Keep talking. Ask for help. Not the asshole. You've done too much caretaking already. Am I the asshole for reporting suspected child abuse that turned out to be a medical condition? I, 26F, work at a daycare and I have a 4-year-old student who is always showing up with bruises. At first I thought maybe he was just a clumsy kid, but then I noticed that he had bruises in odd places on his body, like his back and upper arms. His mother is a really charismatic person, but it just always felt off to me. Last week I noticed that he had finger-shaped bruises on his wrist. I went to my boss and told her I was concerned about possible abuse, and she said she would look into it, but then just never did anything. This week the child told me that when he makes noise, his mom gets very angry with him and says he shouldn't make noise. I couldn't sleep last night because all I could think about was whether or not this kid was being abused, so I ended up making an anonymous phone call to child services. When I arrived at work today, there was all kinds of chaos that ensued. Apparently, child services showed up at the daycare, and the mom was yelling and crying, saying that someone was trying to ruin her family. I learned that the child has a blood disorder that makes him bruise easily, and she is legally able to prove it, with documentation from medical professionals. My boss called me into her office and told me I should have told her first instead of going straight to authorities. The abused mom is threatening to sue us for essentially trying to do the right thing. I thought I was protecting a child that I was 100% certain was being abused. Am I the Absolutely not the asshole. If the child has a condition that leads to suspicious bruising, your boss should have told you when you first reported the suspicious bruising. It's insane to think you should have assumed medical condition and ignored possible abuse. This is delicate but not the asshole. Your boss, admin, is the asshole for dropping the ball, not knowing about the child's condition or taking the situation seriously. Also, if you're a mandatory reporter, they won't have any leg to stand on in a lawsuit against you. Not the asshole. I'm a teacher, so also a mandatory reporter. I have also made that difficult call. You had enough evidence that to not call would have been a breach of your duty of care as a mandatory reporter. In my jurisdiction, a mandatory reporter is specifically instructed not to leave the decision to report up to their boss. This rule is because kids have fallen through that crack to terrible effect. These laws are, sadly, written in blood. It's not our job to make conclusions, it's our job to put up our hand when there is enough evidence that someone with training and expertise should take a closer look. Your boss is wrong. The mom is wrong. Neither of them have information that is essential to avoiding this outcome. The experience sucks, but you did the right thing. Not the asshole. As a daycare worker, it is the law that you are a mandatory reporter. It's literally part of your job to report injuries that look suspicious fit abuse. Not just report when you know for a fact that there was abuse. And, your boss is an idiot if she doesn't realize this is a mandatory part of the job. The mom should have disclosed the medical condition to the daycare. Your boss should have been aware and told you when you had concerns. You did the right thing and mom can try to sue, but she won't get anywhere because you were a mandated reporter and you had no malicious intent to harm her. You were only worried for the child's safety. Not the asshole. You had no idea it was a medical issue, no one told you. The school should know. A medical problem like that should have been disclosed and you made aware when you brought it up. If a child comes in covered in bruises, there's a much higher chance of abuse than a medical issue. You absolutely did the right thing. Thankfully it wasn't abuse, but I think the mother is overreacting. How could she be shocked that someone was concerned when their child keeps going in with bruises? If anything, it would have been negligent to not question it. I hope everything works out for you. Don't let this situation make you ignore something that concerns you. If there's a reasonable explanation, then it would be ridiculous to punish you for it.